cruising into episode 40 of The Bride of Monster Kid Radio with the song, Oh, the Horror. It is the title track from the album, Oh, the Horror, from the band The Horribly Ones. They are a surf band that I stumbled across, and I'm very happy that I did, over on Bandcamp at thehorriblyones.bandcamp.com. They're based out of Finland, and you can find them on Bandcamp or on Facebook or on Instagram or right here on The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Big thanks to them for letting us play their music here on the show. You'll hear this song in its entirety at the end of this episode. My name is Derek M. Cook, the writer, producer, and host of the podcast, and I'm welcoming you to the show. This week, we have a double feature lined up, kind of, sort of. Okay, we're going to talk about a double feature. At least that was the initial plan. My old friend Matt Rashleigh joined us here on the show, and we were going to talk about the double feature of the giant Gila monster and the killer Shrews, and we do. But when two old friends get to talking, you know, sometimes the conversation kind of goes all over the place, and we dip a little bit into public domain stuff and copyright stuff and maybe even some fan-producing type stuff, and, you know, it's just all over the place. But it was a fun conversation. I had fun having the conversation. I had a good time editing the conversation, and I hope that you're going to have a blast listening to the conversation this week here on the show. Now, there is no Beta Capsule review this week because Mark Matsky is taking a well-earned break. Besides, last week wrapped up his coverage of Ultraman Ace. Mark tells me he will be back, but right now, he's taking a little bit of an Ultra vacation. Okay, that makes it sound like he's going to Japan and doing some cool Ultraman stuff. Really, he's doing something better. He's spending some time with Mrs. Matsky and just relaxing and kicking back and having a good time. He's welcome back here as soon as he's able. Mark, we miss you, man. But, you know, in solidarity, thinking about you, I'm going to watch some Ultraman this week, I promise. But first, I'm going to present this conversation that I had with Matt about the giant Gila monster and the killer Shrews, and that's coming up right after this.
Creation of the humanoids. Out of the atomic war came the perfect man, the humanoids, man's own creation. Physically and mentally perfect. Created to serve their masters. Men and women. But could man compete with this creation, the perfect man?
You love that machine?
I love Pax. He's dedicated to keeping me happy. And I am happy.
The robots are machines. They must be made to look like machines.
The perfect man, created by man, becomes man's worst enemy.
Proceed!
The most provocative story ever filmed. The most unusual story ever filmed. You must see it to believe it. The creation of the humanoids. The perfect man.
Famous Monsters of Hollywood magazine names it Shock Award winner. The Monster of Piedras Blancas. The Monster of Piedras Blancas, the world's most shocking monster, stalks its unsuspecting prey. Feasts its eyes on the next victim to writhe in its slimy arms. The screen's most nightmarish beast. A claw-fingered, scaly-skinned, half-human crustacean, turning a lonely lighthouse village into a frenzied bedlam of blood-curdling horror. Never have you known such cringing terror, then trapped in a torment of unendurable suspense. See the movie named the most brain-paralyzing shock story of them all, The Monster of Piedras Blancas.
Terror takes over Chandler's third annual Gathering of the Ghouls, happening at the Rawhide Event Center, September 20th and 21st, 2025. The Terror Trader is thrilled to announce the return of Gathering of the Ghouls. It's a horror convention happening, and it is a weekend to die for. Over 150 horror vendors, legendary celebrity guests, terrifying photo ops, and spine-tingling experiences around every corner, including photo ops with some of the baddies from the movie Sinister or Friday the 13th Part 6, a costume contest, hourly prize giveaways, food trucks, free event programs. The first 5,000 visitors will receive that complimentary program. There's all sorts of cool stuff happening at Gathering of the Ghouls, least of which is Beth and I being there to cover it for Bride of Monster Kid Radio. We have media passes, and we cannot wait to maybe even run into you at Gathering of the Ghouls. So drop me a line at monsterkidradio@gmail.com if you're going to be there, because I would love to meet you. But most importantly, you need to go check out the Terror Traders Gathering of the Ghouls website, which is gatheringoftheghouls.com. Weekend multi-passes for both days. This includes a collectible badge and lanyard, $37. If you'd rather just go on Saturday, it's $29. If you'd rather just go on Sunday, it's $22. If you have any kiddos with you, any younger monster kids, 12 and under, free with a paid adult. GatheringoftheGhouls.com. Check it out. Let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids, can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned. And don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
All right, Bride of Monster Kid Radio listeners, I know that we've been double dipping, sometimes triple dipping, into movies that we've covered here on the show in the past. I know we've talked about the giant Gila monster on the show before, and I'm pretty sure we've talked about the killer Shrews as well. In fact, yes, I know we have. Well, we're doing it again, and this time we're doing it with Monster Kid Radio Irregular. Matt Rashleigh, how you doing, man?
Good. Happy to be here.
This was actually your idea. Explain yourself, sir.
I know that you've talked about both of these movies separately years ago on the show, but I thought we'd talk about it as the way it was presented when they premiered, as a double feature, and the story behind them.
It's interesting. You know, you start to look into the people involved in the film. And the director of these two movies, his pedigree is weird when you think about these two lower budget monster movies that turn up on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and every other amateur riff show. They're kind of kitschy. They're kind of cheesy. I enjoy them. But the guy who made this worked with John Wayne?
Yeah, there's a lot of John Wayne connections and John Ford connections. I think that's one thing that makes this, there's a lot of things that make these two movies special, I think. The fact that it's regional filmmaking. They were billed as the first movie shot in the Dallas area, but they had a lot of Hollywood pedigree that was brought in to pull them off with small budgets, with very small production windows. So it's a real surreal combination of factors and individuals that put these two movies together that are in the public domain. So everybody knows the titles, knows the posters, have probably seen really bad copies of these movies because they're everywhere and they've been around for a long time. But I found the story of the people behind them just as interesting as pictures themselves.
I love these movies, especially the giant Gila monster. Just starting with the title alone, The titles are phenomenal. They're very indicative of the types of monster movies that came out in the 50s. The giant Gila monster. I mean, that's a poster that sells itself. The Killer Shrews. That's great. These are both wonderful titles. And the two of them I really enjoy. I enjoy Gila Monster a bit more. If you had to pick a favorite between the two.
I think I like The Killer Shrews as a movie better than the giant Gila monster, but I think the giant Gila monster is a real treat in the sense that it's like a very clean version of a 50s teen movie where the teens aren't really rebels or rebellious. They're kind of, good kids who like to drag race and dance and sing a little bit. But generally they're not against the man or against the establishment. They're actually kind of friends with the sheriff. I love the music. I love the setting. So I enjoy both a lot. I think as a movie, I think The Killer Shrews is, to me, kind of holds up in that haunted house or trapped in a house dealing with monsters genre really, pretty well. And I think that of the two movies, it's the only one that has a few real scares in it. Whereas the Gila monster is really fun and I like it, but that Gila monster is not fast and you see it coming,
That's not even a real Gila monster.
That's right.
The movie, they used a Mexican beaded lizard, which just looked better on screen, I suppose. A little bit bigger than a Gila monster, so
right.
We don't have to make the models as small.
Yeah, no, I enjoy both. And I think that there's something there for everybody to enjoy. I know that both have been lampooned and made fun of to a large degree. I think there's something to enjoy in both of them just as straight movies, and just for as a double feature, kind of celebrating those B movies of that time period being put together and released. I think it's something that can be fun for the whole family of getting everybody together and talking about, hey, these are movies that were released for kids and teens to bring into the drive-ins, and people made a night of it. So, get the family around the TV, make some popcorn and enjoy these two films together and enjoy them for what they are.
I think, especially with Giant Gila Monster, because it is about a bunch of hot rodding kids, this kind of inadvertently kind of falls into the same kind of subgenre that a movie that we just talked about here on the show, Ghost of Dragstrip Hollow, and its prequel, the Hot Rod Gang, kind of fall into. This is the 50s, and we don't really have the juvenile delinquent films yet. So the kids, while they may be more interested in hot rodding in cars, they aren't getting into a lot of trouble. Maybe they get a speeding ticket, but that's about it. And yeah, you've got the music element as well. Again, going back to Ghost of Dragstrip Hollow, where with that one, there's a girl group in the gang, In this one, you've got the head of the, I guess, gang group, whatever, the lead guy, just starts singing. Sometimes for a radio DJ, sometimes for a little girl who's got issues with her legs. It's kind of weird, but clean and squeaky clean almost and fun. And I enjoy that. As a horror film, I think Killer Shrews works better because it is more confined to one location. It's a siege picture, basically. And I respond really well to siege pictures. Assault on Precinct 13, John Carpenter's early film, which he's described as a siege picture, kind of a Western almost, which would make sense considering the era, the director's tendency to work in those types of films, that sort of thing. I think the horror is a little bit more elevated in Killer Shrews.
I know it came first and it's not as good a picture, but I did think of Night of the Living Dead as I was watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of zombies, you have dogs in costume as Killer Shrews, but still folks trapped in a house who are all fighting amongst themselves and trying to figure out how they're going to survive. That definitely came to my mind.
And the idea of it being regional, this is something that I've talked about on the show in the past as well. Regional filmmaking, I don't know if it's fair to say that we really have that anymore. I think maybe the last instance of that would have been, I don't know, maybe Robert Rodriguez's El Rey Network when that was still around and he was making TV shows that were all being shot down there. in the Texas, Mexico type area. I don't know if we really have that now the way that we did back then. And you've got, Night of the Living Dead being regional filmmaking. You've got these two movies being shot down in Dallas. You've got Monos being shot in Texas. You've got all sorts of stuff happening up and down the East Coast. You've got stuff happening in Florida that is so unique to that area. Casting locals, quasi-celebrities even, like the radio DJ in Giant Gila Monster. I mean, he's a real DJ. He was a real known DJ at a radio station in the area, and I'm sure that got a pop out of the crowd when they saw him or heard him in the film.
Right. Horatio Alger, known as Steamroller Smith, real DJ at KLIF.
Yep.
And that's interesting is that, I think both of us, it appeals to us to see regional films that feel homemade, and these hit that. But to the point of being regional, it's interesting the people behind it, because these were put together by Gordon McClendon with some help from his father, B.R. McClendon, Barton. They had a big empire. Like, they had a bunch of real estate. They owned a bunch of radio stations. They owned some movie theaters. They ended up opening a lot of drive-ins in Texas. This is one of those interesting things where they had some money, and Gordon had seen the success that AIP had and Roger Corman had at making low-budget movies that were playing really, really well to teenagers and young adults. And Gordon McClendon seems like a real character. Like, he's actually in Killer Shrews. He was a real outspoken, like, loud Texas character who later in life ran for the U.S. Senate and lost. But he'd seen the success that AIP had, and he figured that he could do the same thing. And he could make low-budget double feature for his theaters that would be promoted on his radio stations. So that's kind of where the idea started.
Yeah. He, at one point, owned more than 40 movie theaters throughout the South, including a handful of drive-ins, and that would have been perfect for these types of movies.
He knew what his audience was, and he made something specifically for that.
Yeah.
And he had some other, like, pop culture success. Like, he kind of had his finger on the pulse of the culture at the time. His radio stations were one of the first in the country to do top 40 playlists. They were a big hit. He was also one of the first radio broadcasters to do live baseball games, regional baseball games.
Yeah.
So he definitely had something figured out, and I think he knew it. So he decided to take a crack at making some movies. I don't know how exactly the connection to how he knew Ray Kellogg, or if he knew John Ford to get Ray Kellogg. Because also Ken Curtis, who helped produce Killer Shrews, who was John Ford's son-in-law, played a lot of Westerns, was on Gunsmoke. Like, there were a lot of these connections. So I don't know how that all came to be as far as how he got connected with those people. But it's interesting that he was able to get that Hollywood talent to come out to Texas to make 2 low-budget horror movies. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know either. I did a little bit of research on this. This episode actually came together pretty quickly. So the kind of time that I would have spent kind of digging deep is not as deep as I would have liked. It's not as extensive as I would have liked. So I don't know what the connection was. I know that McClendon did serve in World War II. Kellogg had some experience shooting film in World War II. I don't know if that's where the connection was.
Could be.
So I don't know. But going back to Gordon McClendon, I would love to, like, read a biography or something about this man's life, because he was just, he did a lot. He did pirate radio. I mean, he owned his radio station empire, sure, but he did pirate radio broadcasting, like, in Europe. What? Why? What? So yeah, I'd like to know more about this guy and just learn about his life, because he just seems kind of all over the map, but had so many things figured out.
Yeah, like you said, all over the map. Also friends with Jack Ruby, who was involved with the whole JFK assassination in Dallas, and it's really wild. It almost seems like his story could be a biopic at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be nuts. I had forgotten about the Jack Ruby connection. unfortunately, he's no longer with us. A lot of the people involved in the movies that we cover here on the show are no longer with us. Cancer took him in the 80s, unfortunately. But I would have loved to have just learned more about his background, his story, because he had the radio stuff. He did the films. He had the movie theaters, which the movie connection is in, right? But he was also an author. He was very involved in so many different areas of pop culture and making money.
Right.
And that's just fascinating to me for a character like this guy who had to have been a character, could be involved in so much stuff.
Really wealthy, had all these connections, but he still decided to play, the messed up, nerdy scientist in the Shrews, Dr. Radford Baines. And he's great. Like he fits the role so well.
Yep.
But could you imagine, having your boss or, your CEO coming in to play a bit part, an eccentric bit part? I can't. Like, that's just, it's fun. It's hilarious. I do kind of wonder if part of the reason that he was able to get some Hollywood talent to help make this was like two things. Like, first of all, his personality, his persona, and the fact that a lot of people had opportunities with these two films that maybe they weren't getting in Hollywood. Like Ray Kellogg, respected, shot a lot, directed second unit stuff, shot a lot of stuff, was involved with special effects for 20th Century Fox and John Ford, but he'd never directed his own picture before. He'd never been in the main seat directing the show from beginning to end. And so maybe that was part of it that attracted him to do this. Same with Ken Curtis. Ken Curtis was an actor, a singer. Maybe he liked the idea of being a producer for a while. Also when I look at the screenwriter of both these movies, Jay Sims, who had done TV up to this point, but hadn't done a movie yet. And after this, he went on to do, the creation of the Humanoids and Panic in Year Zero.
Oh, that's
also
great film. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good.
And also ended up working with John Ford on a documentary about the Marine Corps. So I found that interesting.
Well, and even some of the side characters in some of these films. Fred Graham is the sheriff in Giant Gila Monster.
Great.
Oh, he's got such a look.
And he did a ton of Westerns.
Yep.
But also a lot of bit parts where he's uncredited. So this for him, it was an opportunity to play a bigger role. And I love him in that movie. Between Fred Graham as the sheriff and Don Sullivan, who plays Chase, the leader of the gang and kind of our hero, the chemistry between those two guys is kind of what helps make the movie work for me.
I think I talked about this when I had Scott Morris on the show when we were talking about this years ago, is that the relationship between the two of them is just so good. It's this surrogate father, maybe kind of vibe. Not sure what the backstory was intended to be or what, but that's how I'm reading it a little bit. It's really good. That holds so much of the movie together for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that it does seem sort of like a father-son role, even though they're not related.
Right.
And the fact that, the sheriff can see the good in Chase. And even though Don, as Chase can see the good in the sheriff and the fact that the sheriff really cares about his community.
Right.
Despite the limitations of what's going on there. Also, since we're on the subject of the cast of the Gila Monster, Lisa Simone plays Lisa, Don's girlfriend. She was Miss France in 1957.
Right.
For the Miss Universe contest. We talked about the DJ. There's also Shug Fisher, who's a comedian who plays the old man Harris. He was also one of the stand-ins for Son of the Pioneers.
Okay.
He was a joke and music man. And he brings a lot of character to the picture. Yeah. He's comedic relief, but it's intentional. And I felt like the chemistry between them all was good. I kind of wish that Lisa Simone, in fact, both movies, I wish that the women had bigger parts, but she definitely brought something to it. So there's some good chemistry there, and I think it's entertaining.
I think that's the failing of a lot of these movies now. In particular, we go back and I don't know if it was even a thought then or just an afterthought. But yeah, a lot of the women in these movies a lot of times don't have as much impact on the movies as we'd like them to have. And it's just something that happened. Hollywood, or those who were imitating Hollywood, didn't find it as important, I suppose. But no, Julie's great in that, and Ingrid Good is really good in Killer Shrews as well. I like her a lot as Anne.
Also, 1956 Miss Sweden.
How do you get these women? And why couldn't we get those type of women in our student films?
Because we didn't have a radio empire and a bunch of movie theaters and real estate, I think.
You know, now that I said that out loud, and I kid you not, man, I wish I could remember her name. It was Stacy something or other. When I lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I was taking those video production courses, we did have a Miss Wyoming in the cast, or in the class. She was a Miss Wyoming of 1990 something or other. She never appeared in any of my stuff, but she was more interested in going to like news and broadcasting. I wonder whatever happened to her. So I guess I came close to having a Miss Wyoming. Not quite the same as Miss France or whatever, but you know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that both Lisa and Ingrid didn't have much of a film career after the late 50s. They appeared in a few things, but I guess neither of these movies were breakouts for them.
Yeah.
What's interesting too is that, like, you know, obviously Gordon McClendon had money, but he really was budget conscious when he made these. Like I've seen reports that Killer Shrews they spent about $120,000 on. Gila Monster, I've seen varying reports, somewhere between $130,000 and $175,000 were spent on that. Shrews was shot in 2 weeks. Gila Monster was shot in 10 days. And I think both of these movies are even more exceptional when you take in those limitations, and yet they still made something that was really entertaining and kind of unique. I was looking into it more because these two movies get a lot of credit for being released as a double feature when they premiered. And they were the first movie to premiere as a double feature. They didn't get a standalone premiere for each film. And both these movies premiered in Dallas at the Majestic Theater, which seats 1,700. Like, it was a classic, you know, movie palace. It's wild for me to imagine a big premiere in a real exceptional movie palace for these two B movies that really live their best lives in drive-ins. Like, it's hard for me to imagine, like, McClendon and all his rich friends and all of the characters that he knew from radio all coming to his premiere in Dallas at the Majestic. I wish there were photos of that. If anybody has photos of that, share them with us Monster Kids, because I need to see them.
Oh, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Oh, and could you imagine being there for that? You know, people at tuxedos and stuff for a giant Mexican beaded lizard and dogs in shrew costumes.
Oh, it would have been fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it would have been so cool.
So they had their big, huge premiere in Dallas, and the same day it did open in, I think, 10 or 11 other theaters across Texas. I've read that the movie had already made a profit in Texas alone before it got national release by AIP. It also got an international release, which is interesting for these regional films. So they obviously made money, and Gordon McClendon, I think, made like one other picture, a family movie about a dog, directed by Ray Kellogg. My Dog Buddy. Ray Kellogg also directed with McClendon, and it also had Judge Henry Dupree, who played Rook, who was the second mate to James Best's captain in Killer Shrews.
Right.
I thought Judge Henry Dupree is a really good actor, and that was also a little disappointing for me with the Killer Shrews, is the fact that the black actor and the Mexican actor both die early and don't get to have much of an arc, when both were really good actors. Mario was played by Alfred De Soto, and I guess he was a pretty prolific actor in Mexico. Like, he has like 25 or 26 acting credits, mostly Mexican films, and they're both good actors, but they don't get their due, I think, in the Killer Shrews. But maybe that's a sign of the times in which it was made.
I think that goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, sign of the times. And the cliche that the black guy always dies first, it came from somewhere, right? And it's unfortunate that it happens in the movies that we love from this era. But again, it goes back to, and I've said this repeatedly on the show, by ignoring or not acknowledging the history does a disservice to those who lived through the history. So I think it's important to bring this kind of stuff up. You know, the African American guy could have done more. The Mexican American guy could have done more in the film, but you know, sign of the times, like you said.
Right. One place where I think the Gila monster excels over the Killer Shrews is the music.
Oh,
I really love the music in the Giant Gila Monster, done by Jack Marshall, whose son is Frank Marshall, the prolific producer who worked with Spielberg and a bunch of other Lucas films. The use of the theremin is perfect. I know you're a sound guy, a music guy. What do you think of the music in Giant Gila Monster?
You throw in a theremin and I'm all in, you know? I love me a good, I need to learn how to play a theremin. I really want to own a theremin. It would drive Beth and anybody else in the household crazy. But man, I need a theremin in my life.
Not only is a theremin amazing, but the way it was played, to me, it put me in that place. Like it put me like in a desolate stretch of Texas where there could be potentially some kind of giant monster out there attacking young teens, making out in their hot rod, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. The music is phenomenal. And okay, Don Sullivan's basically serenade of the girl in the leg braces. I could have done without that moment. I think that's probably my least favorite bit of music in it. I mean, it does show his character, I suppose. I don't know if I needed that in the film. I did really enjoy some of the other moments of music, though. The party, you know, before the giant Gila monster shows up. It's part and parcel of these movies, man. You got to have that. And I loved it.
I love it when Don Sullivan is banging away on the fender, singing away, you know, "My Baby She Rocks," as the drunken DJ is waking up with a hangover. It's a great moment, and I thought the music was charming. I think Don Sullivan. I know a lot of people who are into B movies really like Don, and I can understand why. Like, he had charisma and charm. I wish he'd been in more movies. He was very busy in the late 50s, early 60s. You know, he was in The Monster of Piedras Blancas. He was in Teenage Zombies, Paradise Valley. Like, he did a lot of stuff in a 4 or 5 year stretch. And after that petered out, he went to college, got a degree in chemistry, and ended up working and having a career in the cosmetics industry, which is just wild to me.
And, you know, good for him. I mean, if he found something that he loved and got into it, great. He gave us some great films. You mentioned Monster of Piedras Blancas. That's one of my favorites. I love that movie. If I had like a top 10 list of monster movies, it's on there. And I do have a top 10 list of monster movies, I'm sure. And it is on there.
Yeah, it's a great one. Way better than Teenage Zombies. I watched Teenage Zombies this last year, and it's something.
It's not as good. It's got some stuff in it, and I'm sure if I watched it again, I could pinpoint some things that I like about it. But that's one of the things that I love about these movies is that I'm always going to find something that I like.
Right.
Teenage Zombies has a man in an ape suit. That's all I need. That's all I need. Really.
You know what? I think you and I need to make a movie with a guy in an ape suit and a score done on a theremin, and I'd watch it. I think that the people we know would be entertained.
A man in an ape suit, a score on a theremin, and I just found her last name, Miss Wyoming, 1992, Stacy Senadacy. I'll reach out to her. And
I think we're on something here. I think that, we're on our way.
There's a guy, I don't know who he is, but I've been told stories of a man who walks around conventions, goes to horror conventions and such, and he's got a portable theremin connected to his backpack apparatus that he wears that he takes with him and plays everywhere he goes. I want one.
Oh, that's awesome. Come on, Monster Kids. Let's crowdsource a theremin for Derek.
Oh, no.
You know you want to hear it, everybody.
Oh.
What kind of music will Derek make for Monster Kid Radio with a theremin?
You guys and gals and everybody else cannot see this, but what should have just happened when Matt said that was what kind of music, should have been in air quotes, music, what will Derek make for the theremin? Because, you know, really, I'd just be sitting around, woo, just that, yeah. I do, oh man, a theremin. Oh man. I took music, I did music, kind of, it wasn't really band officially, but I did music in grade school. I played a baritone, which is one step lower than a tuba. which I really wanted to play because I wanted a tuba, but they didn't have any at the school, so I had to play a baritone. But if I could have played a theremin, oh man, that'd be amazing.
You know, the other leading man in these two movies, the Killer Shrews, James Best.
Oh yeah,
He is also great. I've always loved him as a kid who grew up watching the Dukes of Hazzard. I knew him as Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, but I think he's one heck of a leading man in the Killer Shrews. He also was a real musician and singer. I remember him on the Andy Griffith Show playing guitar with Andy Griffith and the two of them singing together, and he had a great voice.
I don't remember him from that. My only memory of him before getting into these types of movies, older films, and this movie in particular, was as Roscoe, from Dukes of Hazzard. And it's not that I was a huge Dukes of Hazzard fan. I knew that you were. I think we talked about it back in film school even, that you were a fan of the Dukes of Hazzard, grew up watching that. I wasn't. Just wasn't my speed, my style, I guess. So I didn't really get into it all that much. But I knew him from that. And that's all I knew him from. So when I first saw this movie, it was kind of a revelation because I kind of expected kind of a more bumbling, less leading man type guy. But he's the leading man in this. He's got swag.
Yeah, no, totally. I wish that there were more movies with James Best as the lead. I really like him. And he was a very talented individual who did a lot of different things. After his acting career kind of dried up in the 70s, he ended up being an artist, painting landscapes. He ended up being a teacher at many universities, teaching acting and painting.
Well, how cool is that?
James Best was a real Renaissance man, and most people know him as a comic relief, bumbling, corrupt sheriff.
Yeah.
But he obviously had other aspects to him, and I wish we could have more James Best. I know that he made a few other movies in the 60s and 70s, and in The Killer Shrews, he really anchors the movie. I think that, he's the guy we're rooting for, and he's the one we're following through all the harrowing misadventures as they deal with the Killer Shrews.
I mean, he did have a handful of episodes of The Twilight Zone, which I have since seen him in, and it was of that era. So he's less bumbling sidekick to Boss Hogg, in those types of things. He's fantastic in this. And this is, I don't know where this is in his career, but he's solid. He's got great command of the screen. He is charismatic. He's in one of my favorite Westerns, Winchester 73. He's really good in this. And he comes back for the kind of sort of sequel.
I have not seen that.
We talked about it on the show, and I would recommend people go back into the archives. I have not watched it since then. It's called Return to the Killer Shrews, and it's kind of a sequel, kind of a reboot. I mean, the events of the first film kind of have happened in this one. Yeah.
It must have been made like over 50 years after the first one. That's got to be one of the longest stretches between an original movie and a sequel.
Yeah, Return of the Killer Shrews. They did a remake of Giant Gila Monster as well, directed by Jim Wynorski. It was just called Gila. And it was just a flat-out remake. It was not referencing the first film at all.
Yeah, well, that's one of the beauties of these two pictures that are double features, the fact that they are in the public domain.
Yeah.
They belong to all of us. And so anybody out there who feels like they are inspired or want to make something or expand on what these two movies started, they're welcome to do it, So you Monster Kid creators out there, go ahead. Expand on the universes of the Killer Shrews and the Giant Gila Monster. I'll be your fan. I'm ready to watch those things, read those things, look at those things. I think it's kind of a treasure and a treat that this Texas double feature belongs to all of us now.
So here's the copyright nerd in me coming out, because I could talk about public domain stuff, copyright stuff, whatever, for hours. I love it. If I could go to law school just to learn copyright law, I would. That's how much I enjoy talking about this kind of thing. I feel like the fact that these films are in the public domain do make them more available. I think the public domain is a great thing for some movies. I don't know if Night of the Living Dead would have had the impact that it did if it wasn't in the public domain. We would not have discovered Manos, the Hands of Fate, if not for the fact that it was in the public domain and just languishing somewhere. And you know how I feel about that one. But here we are saying somebody should go out and remake these movies, but then we always cringe when somebody says, I'm making a remake of something. I feel like it's kind of a double-edged,
No, that's true. I don't know if I want remakes per se, but I mean that's up to people who are creating stuff. I'd love to see more things that take advantage of these creatures and these worlds, and I like the idea that people can play with. Now, obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's been made in the public domain in the horror fringe. I know that we've got Winnie the Pooh and
oh boy,
and Piglet 2 and Steamboat Willie and now Popeye, I think, all making some horror movies that are not of my taste and I sort of cringe about. But who knows down the road what might be created or what inventive concept might come out of these pop culture creations,
I tried
You gotta take-
watching Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yeah.
I'm glad some people worked on it and got paid. It was not my bag, man.
Yeah.
I had to let it go. I did watch Blood and Honey.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I figured if they're going to do a whole cinematic universe, the Pooniverse, I probably should watch it.
Was it sticky sweet?
Oh, it was something, man. It felt like, and I don't know why we're talking about this on this show, but it felt like they knew how to make a movie. I don't know how to follow that up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess
tools.
right.
But I feel like if more work went into the pre-production side of things, the script, maybe some more rehearsals or something, it would have been a lot better.
Right.
But in terms of like how the film was put together, they knew how to make a movie. I didn't go running out to see the sequel or any of the others, and I don't think I probably will. But, it is what it is. And again, I'm glad people are getting paid and making money and having a good time doing their thing.
Right. And I mean, that's sort of the thing with public domain is like you kind of have to take the good with the bad.
Right.
Like, it offers the opportunity to make something great, but obviously there are people out there that won't and will capitalize just off of the names and the characters. But I don't know. In a dark world, that's one of the few places I can be an optimist is the fact that these characters belong to all of us and somebody out there someday will make something new and fresh that connects to the past.
So along those lines then, if you were to revisit, first of all, would these be in the same quote unquote universe?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like the way that both movies start with, that very classic 50s narration about the desolate landscape and creatures out there and all of that. Like they tonally, they feel like they're in the same world. They were shot in the same general area. I guess it's possible. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of like the idea of a shared canon, but that might just be the comic book nerd in me that really enjoys seeing connections and putting things together, and the fact that all the Star Trek shows take place in the same universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and, the Luchador films I'm trying to put together in one cohesive timeline. I like that. So maybe? Yeah, I think I would. In fact, I'd take the Doctor, played by Glendon, in Killer Shrews and make him part of why there's a giant Gila monster to begin with.
Ooh, see? I like that. Yeah. So we're talking a prequel now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or do you think that his lab work happened after they left the island that caused the... Because I kind of feel like in a way the Killer Shrews is sort of timeless. Like you don't know exactly when it takes place.
That's a good point. Gila monster definitely is rooted in its era, but you're right. Killer Shrews could work. Well, and I always got the impression in Killer Shrews with Dr. Baines that he's kind of on the outs.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of money, doesn't have a lot of resources, probably doesn't follow all the right protocols. OSHA's not a thing. But what if he's partly responsible for the giant Gila monster and then he has to go into hiding and doesn't have the resources, and that's why he's doing the Killer Shrew stuff now?
And that's why he's working with Dr. Craigus, is because his Gila monster experiments failed or turned bad.
Or something.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
We hadn't mentioned him yet. Matt Rashleigh, who we haven't talked about, plays Dr. Craigus. He's sort of the leader of the experimentation on the Shrews. All this having to do with overpopulation. He's great. I found out that he was the director of the Dallas Institute of the Performing Arts. So he was a legit actor and a legit theater guy. Ended up teaching Jane Mansfield and Toby Hooper in his time as a instructor. So
somehow this movie has a connection to Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
there you go. Right?
Wow.
All kinds of threads run through Dallas on this one.
That's crazy. And maybe
Goes back to the conspiracy, Jack Ruby stuff.
There we go.
Yeah.
I was saying at the very beginning of this, or near the beginning of this, that I don't know if regional filmmaking is really a thing anymore. Back then, if you were in the performing arts and you did not live in Hollywood and somebody came calling and said, hey, I'm making a monster movie, do you want to be in it? I mean, that's how they cast monos. They got people from the local community theater, right? And because they're not in Hollywood, they're just performers, they're just actors. They just happen to be geographically restricted. So if a movie comes to town, I don't know.
I think it was all about regional filmmaking, which, that this was definitely a big point in that.
Well, more isolated, more
right.
pockets, as opposed to a connected film community now where you and I could shoot something and feasibly appear in the same film and it would look like it was in the same film because of technology and everything else.
Right. And I guess, like, sort of on the same tangent that you were just talking about, I guess in a way there's regional filmmaking today, but it's more no budget, super low budget things. Like, I know, like in the Pacific Northwest, there's been a few things that were super low budget that are technically feature films that are available on things like Tubi. So I guess there is, but it's not of the same prestige. And I feel weird using the word prestige here, on the regional filmmaking of the 50s and stuff. Maybe because in the 50s, like, they were able to get people who had Hollywood experience and talent and had money, and with drive-ins had a different level of, release. And the fact that there was less content out there, we think of those regional filmmakers as being a bigger deal, especially when, they brought in jobs and they hired professionals and they did that sort of thing. Whereas now you have people everywhere making their own little movies or whatever, with no budgets, that get dropped on YouTube or are good enough that they get good, again, a loose term, good, gets on a streaming service. So I don't know. I guess it's weird how things kind of all come around and change, but it's not the same.
Is it
certainly not the same
thing? Is it a distribution thing then? Is it they rented a big movie palace to show these movies that they made in their area and they invited everybody around who knew everybody who was in the movie versus, hey, I just threw that up on YouTube, check it out.
Yeah, maybe. And like now and then, like, I really love movies, as you and I both do. And I follow a lot of movie theaters, a lot of independent movie theaters. Now and then you'll see in different places where an indie house or an art house will have a premiere for a movie that was made regionally. And maybe it is a distribution issue, but at least, like, there are people out there making stuff and it's getting shown, and it'd be cool if that was in the same spirit of the stuff that came out, like, in the 50s, like this double feature, like The Blob, like those regional players of their time. I do think that maybe the regional players of that time were more like traditional movie making in the sense that you had to have real movie making equipment and they made studios and they hired people, versus now where it's a bunch of friends with an iPhone and some editing software. It's a lot to ponder.
This is getting pretty deep, pretty philosophical. You were talking about, like, local movies shot in the Portland area having a Portland premiere. I think it was you that sent me links to pictures from the premiere of Raging Midlife, which was the wrestling movie they brought in Paula Abdul to be in it. And man, if we were in the area, I would have drug you to that. We would have seen.
Would have been fun, I wish.
Yeah. I still haven't watched it. I need to.
Yeah, me either.
I need to. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's different now.
Yeah.
You know, we say this on a day that here in 2.5 hours, you're going to basically a premiere for a mini film festival that you and your son both took part in. You know, which is very different than renting out a movie palace. You're going to go sit in the room over at Movie Madness and watch a loop of short films.
Yeah. And fortunately, being here, that there is a lot of people who love movies and making things, and Movie Madness, one of the best video stores left in the world, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an exaggeration. They put on a little direct-to-video film festival every summer. This is the third year. We all got to make 6-minute or less short films, and this afternoon we get to go see those, and it's fun to see what creators come up with no budgets and very little time. I think that some of that's definitely in the spirit of movies like The Killer Shrews and the Giant Gila Monsters, you know?
Look at you desperately trying to bring us back on topic, but you're absolutely right.
Well, you know, it's people, obviously the scales are different, but you know, it was people trying to make entertainment with limited time and limited money, with a little bit of talent and a little bit of imagination.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I think that that's part of the reason that, you know, you and I, having met in film school and had that dream, that the reason that we connect with these low budget movies that have that homemade feel, that were made in a region outside of the mainstream, you know, Hollywood movie making machine. I think that there's something romantic about it that appeals to both of us as creators, as people who kind of wanted to do it, and who knows, maybe someday we'll do something together that is something that monster kids will love. But I think that that's part of the appeal, you know, that allows us to see past the limitations of these low budget movies, that we can see the magic there and the dream and the inspiration, you know?
Yeah. When we tell our version of the Dr. Baines story, going from monster movie accident to monster movie accident.
Yeah.
Oh man, just how many relatives we could tap for financing. That's why this is any descendants we could tap into.
I'm ready to dress my dog up as a killer shrew if it allows me to play in this universe.
It's just a dog with a rug over it, man. Come on.
You know what? And I think it works. Like, I think the fact that, and also they had some puppetry involved, and the fact that it's sort of like, I don't think it's a strobe light, but there's sort of something strobe-y about the killer shrews when they come in and then popping through the fence, and the sound effects that they have, like,
the sound,
right? Like, I find the killer shrews to be incredible. I think they're great. Like, there are a few times on some wide shots where you see them in a pack and wagging tails that things kind of fall apart a little bit. But but when they're digging under a fence and popping through the wall and gnawing on stuff, like, man, that's scary. And when Rook dies, that's scary. Like, I think it all works. You know, Ray Kellogg was the one who did the special effects on Killer Shrews himself, the director, who had done special effects on some big stuff, you know, back in his day at 20th Century Fox. Like, I wrote it down here somewhere. Let me see. I want to say, like, he worked on The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Yes. Yeah.
Journey to the Center of the Earth. I mean, like that's some legit Hollywood special effects there.
Yep. I'm going to say something that may come across as a little sacrilegious, maybe a bit much, but I'm going to say that the sound of the killer shrews when they're going, almost as eerie as the sound of the giant ants in them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, yeah.
No, I'm with you. I could see that. Yeah. Yeah, but I think the killer shrews, man, they're up there.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for those couple wide shots with wagging tails, I think it would have played better. Yeah. Also, on the special effects front, Ralph Ramirez did the special effects for Giant Gila Monster.
Yeah.
And he has some less special or magical credits, like the Giant Claw, which has its own amount of lampooning, but he also worked on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And early in his career, he worked on The Lost World, which is 100 years old this year. He also helped with the special effects for Cleopatra, which, is probably one of the biggest epics that was done. So it's neat to see that people of that caliber, like Ray Kellogg, who worked on amazing, great things, like did help do the special effects for Tora, also do low budget stuff over a couple weeks in Texas.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. It really is. I mean, they're fun, enjoyable movies. They don't last very long, so it's not a huge investment, right? So really, you got 75 minutes for Gila Monster. I don't remember Killer Shrews, but I feel like it's even shorter.
Yeah, I think it's like an hour 5, hour 6. Like it's really not long at all.
Yeah, in and out.
And I think that's probably one reason that they work so well as a double feature, because I've seen both of them maybe 3 times, I think. And just before doing this yesterday, I watched them back to back to kind of try to get into the mindset of seeing this as a double feature. And
Nice.
I think it would have been a hoot to be at a drive-in with the kids, watching these two movies. It seems like great fun. I know that the drive-ins that are out there do a lot of great stuff to keep their doors open and run a lot of special programming. I'd love it if, one of them would do like a 1950s night. They bring back these classic movies that did play as double features, I would drive a few hours to see the Killer Shrews and the Giant Gila Monster as a double feature. I think it'd be a good time.
Heck yeah, it would be. That would be a lot of fun. And I mean, I've got a drive-in movie theater about an hour or so from me. I don't know what kind of things they do. I've never been. And I know you've got one about 45 minutes away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if we could book a drive-in movie theater. So Monster Kids, if you know of anybody that just, wants to give their drive-in movie theater over to Matt and I for a weekend, we'll book one heck of a run. We'll bring these two movies in. We'll show some other awesome flicks. I promise you. It'll be a good time.
Oh, I'm there.
I have not seen the remake of this from 2016, Attack of the Killer Shrews. Don't know anything about it other than the IMDb says that hilarity ensues in this parody of this film. Okay. I don't know. I'm sure I can find it on Tubi or somewhere.
Yeah. I know that both movies are fertile ground for parody and making fun, and that's all great. I know that a lot of people found these movies through Mystery Science Theater. That's good too. I enjoy both movies as they are. I think that they're good fun as they are, but whatever brings people to enjoy these kind of forgotten flicks, more power to them.
Remember these movies.
And check them out. If you haven't seen them,
oh my.
On an afternoon, and you want to do something different than the mainstream, man, go back to these. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, they're on YouTube. They're all over the place, public domain. I just posted a slightly enhanced version of the trailer for Giant Gila Monster in the Monster Kid Radio YouTube channel and on Facebook, where I've done some work to make the sound a little bit better and the picture just a little bit better. I'm not adding things to it per se, but I'm using the same technique that I use when I enhance a movie for streaming on our Twitch channel on some of these trailers. And the response has been good. So check some of that out as well. And you know what? What the heck? Let's plan on running Killer Shrews and Giant Gila Monster on the Twitch stream starting sometime this week.
Woohoo!
So
that sounds great.
Check it out.
May not be a drive.
Films that I have access to and put them in there as well.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Not a drive-in, but we can all get together and enjoy the Twitch stream and have a good time watching these movies together, commenting and sharing our experiences. I look forward to doing it with all you monster kids. It sounds like a great time.
Make your Halloween season extra special this year. Join other fans of monster movies from across the nation at the Monster Bash Conference, October 10th through the 12th at the Pittsburgh Marriott North. It's a 3-day festival celebrating classic horror and science fiction films. Guests of honor include Gary Clark, the teenage werewolf in the film How to Make a Monster, actress Barbara Wilson from the movies Invasion of the Animal People, Blood of Dracula, The Flesh Eaters, and more. Plus, from the original Dark Shadows TV show, meet Catherine Lee Scott and Sharon Smith. John Russo, the co-writer and actor from the original Night of the Living Dead, will be set up too. TV producer Bill Diamond will be shooting footage for his documentary series on monster book and magazine cover artist Basil Gogos, and have a great display of original art, get autographs, and enjoy a 3-day film festival and special events. Explore over 100 vendor tables with vintage monster toys, comic books, monster magazines, Blu-rays, DVDs, monster t-shirts, model kits, original movie posters. The Marriott will be bursting at the seams with cool stuff from our childhood. Admission can be purchased for $25 a day at the door or $60 for all 3 days. You can save more by ordering your 3-day admission in advance at monsterbash.us. That's monsterbash.us. Monster Bash, the conference and expo, October 10th through the 12th, 2025 at the Pittsburgh Marriott North. If you want to stay, ask for the special Monster Bash rate at the Marriott.
Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the show. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. If you had a good time, make sure you let people know that you had a good time by going online and spreading the word about what we do here, and send them over to our website at monsterkidradio.net. This is where you're going to find everything you need to know about the podcast, links to everything that we ever talk about here on the show, links to all of our socials. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Blue Sky and everywhere else. Okay, not Twitter, it's X, but you know what I mean. We're all over the place. Plus, you can find our contact information over there. monsterkidradio@gmail.com is our email address, and our voicemail line is 360-524-2484. We would love to hear from you. What did you think of the giant Gila monster and the killer shrews? What did you think about anything that we've talked about on the previous 39 episodes of Bride of Monster Kid Radio, or anything that we talked about on the over 666 episodes of Monster Kid Radio? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to put together another feedback section or segment or chunk of whatever, but we can't do that unless you reach out to us and send us some feedback about the podcast. Also, if there's anything coming up in your neck of the woods that's Monster Kid related that you think Monster Kids might be into, you can always contact me, monsterkidradio@gmail.com, or call in and leave a voicemail about it. And this way, you can be a Bride of Monster Kid Radio correspondent. I know I mentioned this previously. I know in 2026, we're going to be doing some more stuff with trying to build like a cyber street team, that sort of thing. But let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. We'd like to turn you into a contributor or a correspondent out there in the real world. Here in the cyber world, we got other things going on. I mentioned earlier with Matt that I'm going to be redoing the Twitch stream. It's down right now, but here in a couple of days, I'd say no later than Wednesday, we're going to have it up and running again, and we are going to be showing Giant Gila Monster, the Killer Shrews. I'm going to throw Monos in there because that's another independent, low-budget, regional film from Texas, and another movie that I've never talked about here on the show, but I'd really like to, called Dungeon of Harrow. Harrow? I don't know. I've seen it pronounced both ways, or heard it pronounced both ways. Either way, I really like that movie. If you're a super fan of Dungeon of Harrow, whatever, I'd love to talk with you and maybe even put you on the show to talk about it, but you're going to be able to see the movie when I start the new loop no later than Wednesday. How do you watch these movies? It's totally free. Go to twitch.tv/MonsterKidRadio. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to pay. It's going to be playing for you nonstop on a repeating loop for about a week. So we got all sorts of fun stuff that you can do online in the meantime, while you're waiting for the next episode of the podcast. What's coming up on the next episode of the podcast? Well, you got to follow us on Patreon to find out. Patreon.com/MonsterKidRadio. Now you can follow without becoming a paying patron, and that's where in the show notes, I announce what's coming up on the next episode of the show. That will also be going up probably Wednesday or so you have time to get over to Patreon.com/MonsterKidRadio and sign up. Now, if you become a paying patron, well, that helps us out even more, and Beth and I thank you from the bottom of our monster-shaped hearts. Thank you. Thanks again to Matt for being part of the show, and big thanks to the band The Horribly Ones. You can check out their album, Oh, the Horror, over at thehorriblyones.bandcamp.com, or follow the link in the show notes at monsterkidradio.net, or find them on Facebook or Instagram, however you check them out. Make sure you let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. We love having surf bands here on the show. It makes the show that much better, so please show them a little bit of love. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. My name is Derek M. Cook. I will talk to everybody next week when we do it again here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Ciao.